Reddit Ads does not announce new features very often, so when they do, we like to talk about it on the channel. Within the past week of recording of this video, Reddit Ads announced Carousel Ads. Now they're pretty familiar if you've run them with Facebook and LinkedIn, but there's differences with Reddit just due to how this channel works. So we're going to show you which types of campaign objectives can use carousel ads, some of the settings that you're going to have in order to be able to see them within your campaigns, and some of the best practices that Reddit recommends to make your carousel ad successful. Reddit Ads has a very familiar account structure setup that most of the paid media channels also use. We can see the 3 tabs for campaigns, ad groups, and ads. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time going through the nitty-gritty of all the aspects of a campaign setup because we already have a video that talks about the main campaign setup and you can watch that one here. But this video is about carousel ads. And in order to get to the ad section, we have to create a campaign and solidify our ad groups. So let's start creating a new campaign. Before you can move on, you do have to name your campaign. And then we can scroll down to the campaign objectives. For promoted carousel ads in Reddit, you can use any of the objectives except video views. That is because you'll see when we create an example ad that you can only use images. So for a video views campaign, having a bunch of cards of all videos is just not possible. So feel free to select app installs, conversions, brand awareness and reach, or the one I'm going to choose, traffic. And then we can keep on moving. And just like the campaign, I will have to enter in an ad group name, otherwise it won't let me continue. If I move down a little bit, we can then start choosing our audiences. The Reddit audience option is going to be the options that you have within the channel. That's going to be the one I'm going to stick with. But a fairly newer option is pixel retargeting. We do have another video going over Reddit retargeting. You could check that one out here. But I want to make sure you know that you do have the option to show a carousel ad to people who have visited certain pages on your site, performed certain actions on your website, where you can change up your messaging based on different levels of intent and previous engagement. But like I said, I'll leave it as Reddit audience. There's location, I'm just going to leave it worldwide. I named the campaign an ad group around horror, just because it was an ad I saw on Twitter right before I recorded this video, so I'm going to stick with that. I'm just lucky enough that it's an interest category on Reddit. So the interests are going to be much more higher level. You could go down and target a specific community, or otherwise known as subreddit targeting. Not every subreddit that you see on Reddit will be available in here. It really depends on volume. But as you can see, you can type in a few different options. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be exactly what I'm looking for, but we see a lot more that we could add. I'm going to keep scrolling. There we see device targeting. That one's pretty straightforward, but I want to make sure we stop a little bit on ads placements. That is because you can only use carousel ads on the Reddit feed. So if you want to use conversation ads, carousel is not an option for you. And then we get to the main portion of your delivery, your budget, your bid, and then you can look at your ad schedule. You can run it continuously, which is the default option. If you want to, set a specific start date and end date. I don't want to do that. And then you can look at the time of day. And Reddit makes it really easy to highlight certain blocks. Or you can pick certain hours of a day when you would want your ads to run. Very specific, which is cool. And as it says, the times are based on the ad viewer's time zone, not the ad account's time zone. And that's pretty much it for the campaign and ad group setup for a Reddit ad. Now let's get to the whole point of the video, which is the carousel ad. If you want to leverage an existing post, you can do that. You see that it is in the bottom here. I do have this example blurred out because it's just that a client wanted to see an example of what a Reddit ad could look like, so can't show you that one. And this post that I have created is not a carousel. I did it before it was announced. So let's go on and create a new post. You can see where my mouse is right here. The default option for a new post is link. That's not the one we want. And I told you earlier in the video, we cannot use video in a Reddit carousel ad. So you guessed it, the option we need to choose is gallery. So let's just go right down the line. First, you need a post title. And there is a little warning that says titles longer than 100 characters may be cut off in conversation ads. But when we're in the ad group settings, remember we had to choose feeds. We cannot do conversation ads, so don't worry about that 100% character cutoff. You have 300 for carousel ads. I'm not going to use 300, but that is a good component to test different messaging within your carousel ad. Next, we can add the images needed to make the carousel. Reddit's telling you in the red font, you have to have at least 2 cards, but the maximum amount allowed is 6. So let me add some options right now. See, I picked the perfect images for the horror genre. She's going to be mad at me when she reviews this video, but I don't care. It's funny. So I'm leaving it in. All right, let's talk about specs, because I'm sure you're noticing something that's very weird within one of those images, and that's one is moving. So even though we can't use videos, we can use GIFs or GIFs, whatever you want to call them. So if you want to use movable GIFs, they have to be less than 3 megabytes. They have to be at least 3 seconds in length, but they can only go up to 10 seconds in length. For the other cards that I have in here, the static images, you can use JPEG or PNGs, and the ideal size is 1200 by 1200 pixels. They want a square image. What I can say is none of the static images that I added are square. And Reddit says if you're running a desktop only campaign, the ideal image is the landscape 1200 by 628, the one that is commonly used in LinkedIn and the one that used to be more prominent within Facebook. But I'm going to tell you Reddit is a different breed, so please just don't copy and paste your LinkedIn, Quora, Facebook images to Reddit. I do not recommend that. Try to create something that's more fun and custom to the Reddit community. Now for each card, we get a caption, a destination URL, an optional display URL, and an optional call to action. And as I go ahead and click on any of these other cards, we see that we have to add these elements in every single card that we have. So the first is a caption. And if we go down, Reddit is telling us we have 180 characters. Next is the destination URL. So each card can send users to a different landing page. So look at the goals of the campaign. Is it telling one consistent story and the landing page will be the same? Or does each card tell a different story? It can offer a user a different experience. That's something you're going to have to decide based upon what you want to do with the campaign. Now, just last week, we released a video that Michelle created that introduces users to UTM parameters. Hopefully you're familiar with them, but if not, here's a link where you can go watch it. You will want to manually add those parameters to this destination URL just so you can form your analytics or your CRM, whatever, that traffic or conversions you're seeing recorded came from this specific campaign. Let me paste in an option here and see if we can go through the parameters. Okay, good. They show the whole thing. So I'm just going to use our website. We see the source is Reddit. The medium, we use CPC. That's just a preference thing. You can use paid social, paid, whatever you're already using within your platforms. The campaign is horror interests. That's what I targeted. And then for the content, I did carousel. Now, if I want to try multiple different types of ads to test, then I'll probably update that content parameter to call out the different variations. But since this is just one ad, you get the picture. But now that I think about it, since it is a card by card thing, what I would actually do is add a different variant for this card, go over to the next card, and change up the content just so when I go back into Google Analytics and look at the traffic stats and the conversion stats, I can review the dimension of the content and actually see which element of my Reddit carousel ad led to the conversion or specific visit. But let me hop back into the other one. And if we drop down display URL, it is optional. I'm still going to put it in there. And then we can look at the call to action. See a lot of the familiar ones: download, install, shop now, learn more, watch now, play now. Wouldn't use those because you can't really watch a video for a carousel ad. I'm just going to choose view more. So let me go through really quick, add all these elements to each of the cards, and then we'll continue with the setup. Okay, I have all these captions in every single one of the cards. But one thing, if I hover over this, we see the grab hand. Because what I did is I picked 6 images from the file and uploaded them all at the same time. And they came in this order. I didn't manually choose this order. I may not like this order. So what I could do is grab one element and move it around. Drag it to where I want it to be in the order that the user is going to see it from left to right. In my head, I could be thinking a GIF moves. Maybe it has a better chance of capturing the user's attention. I may want to lead off with that one. And you can just shuffle it around to whatever order that you want. But if you're good with your selections, you can scroll down and then look at your thumbnail image. So let me select one option. I picked that one because that was the only one that fits. Now, if you look down below, 500 kilobyte max. They're giving you a recommended size, and you see that one's cropped a little bit. Probably not the best for a thumbnail because it's zoomed out, but it's something you could play around with. Now, last option before you save is if you want to allow comments on the Reddit post. And I'm going to leave that one completely up to you. Reddit users can be really engaging. They can also be pretty vicious if they don't like your ads. So make sure that you're doing your research and that the branding message and the story that you're telling is really in line with your target audience. In this case, I chose a very higher level one. So I wouldn't recommend being pushy in their high level interest. If you're doing any sort of the specific subreddit or community targeting, do your research first. Go into each of the communities you may want to target. Find out how people engage in those specific subreddits. So you can go back and make creative that will fit with the personas and the style of how people like to engage in each of those subreddits. I said it before, but I'm going to stress it. Reddit is not Facebook, and it's definitely not LinkedIn. Don't come into this channel with a bunch of product carousels and try to sell. If you do that and you allow comments on that post, I can almost guarantee that your ad will be destroyed publicly. Look at focusing the efforts on telling an actual story. And for now, I just want to save this post. And after it's saved, you can scroll down to the bottom of the page, give the preview a look. We can see the post title is up top here. And since this is a preview, it's not showing fully what the ad would look like. Down below, that's where your actual URL is going to be. Above the URL will be each of the card titles. And then over here, where my mouse is moving, that's where the call to action button will be. But we see the arrows. It gives the user to scroll through a few elements. That picture got really big. And there's my favorite one. If you're happy with the option, you can go and review, and then you can submit. And now my campaign is launched, and I'll be able to start running it based upon that target audience. Now, I had one ad running. If I click in deeper, there's my campaign, there's my ad group, and there's my ad. I can edit the ad or duplicate it if I want to start testing some new ones. But I just remembered now seeing this, there is a specific preview. So let's look at it, and we'll get a better idea of what this ad would look like in the wild. And this one's actually in the order of what I rearranged it within the preview earlier in the demo. So there's the moving one, there's my title, there's our URL. If you look on the bar on the bottom, we see all the parameters are in there, and that's the view more option, which is also clickable and will send users to that same URL. Clearly, this is a total joke ad. We're just messing around, and thank God Michelle has an awesome sense of humor. But for the last part of this video, I want to hop into PowerPoint and give creative recommendations that Reddit has shared on what would make a successful carousel ad on the Reddit platform. So when Reddit announced carousel ads fairly recently, they shared information about the best practices advertisers should keep in mind before running carousel creative. I'm going to summarize what they said within that announcement and then sprinkle my opinion in there. And the first one is creating a cohesive experience, which is pretty much the opposite of what I did in this demo. In the demo, I was just showing you the functionality and how the ads work. But I just picked a bunch of random photos. The titles didn't flow together. It's just something I could quickly put together for this video. Now for your brand or for your account, look at what story you are trying to tell. How is one card going to flow into the other card? You don't have to use all 6 spots like we did. Do whatever makes sense for the experience and the audience that you are targeting. Again, don't choose any random photos. Make sure they fit together in a specific theme. And also that the order of that theme can engage the user to want to click to the next card, which brings to the next point, which we already talked about. Start with the most compelling card. And that's exactly why I put the GIF one at front. But maybe with testing, you might have to try a different creative. That first card is going to make the biggest difference of why the user would click to the next one. See, with Facebook, they get a little bit of preview of what the next card is going to be, but not with Reddit. It's one creative or one card at a time. So really test out that first card. That is going to have the biggest impact. Make sure that your landing page is relevant. This one is pretty clear. What are you talking about in the card title and what are you showing within that card? If you don't have a corresponding landing page that fits with what you're telling in each story element within that card, maybe you shouldn't even include it at all. So think about that one. We have a good amount of characters to use, not only for the post title, but the individual cards as well. And since it's on the feed, it won't get cut off. Make sure that you're using as much space as possible to give users information, explain who you are as a brand if it's very introductory, but also to entice the user to either click on the URL or click on the next card to learn more about you. And the last thing, which we already talked about, is making sure that the creative that you're using in your carousel ads fits within the culture of what you are targeting. And I hold this especially true for the subreddit community targeting. There are some very tight-knit options out there, and some of those subreddits have a much lighter tone. Even if it's relevant into your industry, you may be better off going in there with just a bunch of memes, just to make your brand look appealing and relatable. There are other more professional subreddits out there where you can be direct. There's also options out there where people might just want help and get information. So possibly a carousel ad of blog articles relevant to that specific targeting could be extremely helpful. It's hard to say because Reddit can fit so many different industries and accounts. But this fifth point to me is one of the most important ones. Your targeting must speak to how the users want to be advertised on this platform. And that's pretty much it for now on Reddit's carousel ads. It's a pretty new feature and it should be available within your account. So now you know how to set it up, and now you know some of the best practices on how to make them work for your accounts. If you're running Reddit ads, now you have a new option to use for your ad testing.
Thanks for watching our video. If you found it useful, give us a thumbs up below.
We release a new video at least once a week, so if you want to see more from the Paid Media Pros channel, be sure to subscribe.